break down on this mountain. Let the wind carry me away. But these rocks will hold me. These trees will break my fall. I can make it all the way, even if I have to crawl. These rocks were made from sand, over miles and many years. Maybe they will crumble, but that I cannot fear. I cannot live in fear. In fear. Thank you so much.
So we are inviting your full participation in the well-being of this center. And it happens because all of us make it work. So some of you are here today because you got an email saying, I have an announcement. So, if you're here for the first time, sorry. So I was reminded this week of the great movie Steel Magnolias. Anybody seen Steel Magnolias? All the gay men are like, oh yeah, you know. I said it's like sort of the initiation ceremony. If you're going to be gay, you've got to go through this course, and that's part of the curriculum. But every great line in the world is in there. But there's this wonderful passage in the beauty shop, and somebody says, oh my God, did you hear that so-and-so's son, Michael, came out? And he says, oh my God, how did he tell his parents, who are these good Baptist people? And he says, well, he sat him down. You know, he's always had a flair for the dramatic. He sat down the family, said, I need to talk to you. And they said, oh, okay, what? And he said, I have a brain tumor. They went, and he said, no, I'm just gay. So it's all relative, right? So I don't have a brain tumor, I'll let you know that, but I have, listening to the promptings of Spirit, listened, and I have decided it is time for me to retire from pulpit ministry. So I have here a display. If you're wondering who that young man is up in the corner, turns out that's me. 1985, Reagan was president, and Miami Vice was hugely popular. Can you tell? I know. So I wanted to give you some context to this. That was one of the first presentations I gave. I'd taken a bunch of kids off to youth camp, and so that began the journey into ministry. I graduated from the School of Ministry in 1991, took my first pulpit, and for the last 25 years, in one way or another, this is kind of what I've done. So Spirit has been impressing upon me to take my next step. And I did what I usually do when Spirit impresses me to do something, I resist. Anybody else do that, right? Pray for guidance, you get guidance, you're like, no, not that guidance. That's not the guidance I'm looking for. I want the other guidance that's comfortable, right? But in a couple of years ago, we began having a conversation at the leadership council level about how could we allow me to take the next step that I know that is mine to do, as well as lead this community. And we've worked with that and struggled with it and tried to figure out a way. And I finally came to the realization that I'm not a person that can do that. I'm not saying it can't be done. I have some colleagues that have been able to do that. But for me, it doesn't work. And I know that I can no longer resist what is mine to do. So I'm going to, at the end of July 31st will be my last Sunday here as your senior minister. I'm going to move into my greater yet to be. I'm still going to live in Salt Lake. This will still be my community. I have a pledge card that I filled out, and we'll fill one out next year because even though I'll go away for a while, I still want to come back to my center to be part of it. But it's really exciting for me to do this, even while it's somewhat terrifying. You know, that rare combination of when it's your next step, it should both excite you and scare your pants off or something. I'm trying to keep it clean today. I have, 5 more months of watching my language, and then I can go back to talking like a trucker like I used to, right? So I wanted to have the conversation with all of you because I love having open, transparent conversation. So in the last, we've talked to a number of people, kind of guided this process so that we know that I am not this community. Now, if you go back and listen to every talk I've ever given, you will hear me say this over and over and over and over. But I also know what happens is because I stand at the front of the room Sunday after Sunday, it's easy to think that the community is about me. What I know, and there's a lot of people that have been here for a long time that know that ministers come and ministers go, and life changes and life evolves and it gets better. And so our process is that we have a plan, and I will be here through the end of July. At that point, in the meantime, we're working on identifying and finding the right interim minister who will come in and guide the process as we go through a community in grief. And I say that humbly because when change happens, so does grief. For some, you're going to be sad. For others, you're going to be thrilled. I know that. I get it. It's fine, right? But if we're not careful, the ones that are thrilled and the ones that are sad can go into conflict. And so that's why you have an interim in place just to guide people through the process. Now, here's what I know. Here's what I have learned after 25 years of ministry. People project their stuff on spiritual authority. Weird. I know, so weird. So if you're feeling abandoned right now, guess whose issue that is? Right? If you're, right? It's okay because, again, being in conscious community says we are honoring our humanness. We are honoring these emotions that come up. And we can be conscious and aware of how we go through this process. I was sharing with a group recently that of the many things I've gotten to let go of over the last 5 or 6 years, one of them was a marriage of 14 years. And I said to my partner at the time when we made the decision, he was living in Sun Valley, I was working down here and actually took a place down here, and it became kind of obvious, wow, we don't live together anymore. And don't see this merging back together. And so I said, let's see if we can't be as conscious exiting the relationship as we were entering it. And we've done that, and I feel good about that. He's doing his life, I'm doing my life, and we're all more whole for the experience. This, too, can be such a situation. I always say, as Americans, we're really good at beginnings. We're all about celebrating the new. New person's joined the group. New person's done this thing. When I was in real estate, they said, the new, when a brokerage would hire a new realtor, there's a little ad in the paper and everybody has a little party and a welcome thing. When they leave the brokerage, it happens in the middle of the night and it's almost as if they were never there, right? When people die in our society, the baby's born and there's showers and there's this whole thing, and then they die and they move the body in the middle of the night, and it's like, right? So this is an opportunity for us as a community to practice being in healthy community together. Being sad together, if that's what's up. I call it this wonderful combination of gratitude, because I am so grateful for this experience, and grief. I'm sad that I'm taking this next step. And grace of trusting the divine still works and always works. And so for me, I see this as an opportunity to allow the greater yet to be to come forward. You know, I was sharing my journey here, because it's interesting how this whole thing unfolded. I was working at the time, I was working with a new group. I was living in Sun Valley, Idaho. I was working with a group that asked me to come help them get started in Boise. And so on Sunday mornings, bright and early, I'd get in my car and I'd drive to Boise and I'd give a talk and do my thing, and then I'd teach a class and do whatever, and then I'd come back, sometimes the next day or whatever. And I guess it was about December of 2009, Reverend Elizabeth called me. And I had helped, in 2006, I'd helped be an interim, some of you will remember that was the interim minister for a few months as we went through the transition from Reverend Donald into the new, which ended up eventually being Reverend Elizabeth. And she called me and said, just wanted to let you know I'm leaving Salt Lake and taking my next step. And I was surprised because from what I could tell, things were going well, the community was growing, there was a lot that looked good on the surface, and I said, wow. I said, that's something I'd have to look at. So apparently she passed that information on to somebody, and then in about January of 2010, I got a call from the then board president who called me and said, Reverend Elizabeth is leaving. We're moving out of our building. We think we need a little help. I said, yeah, you do want sort of an and to that statement when you go to the community. I said, I'll come down, we'll talk, maybe I can help you come up with a plan. So when I left, I ended up somehow saying I would agree to commute down here 2 Sundays a month. So this was my life. I was living in Sun Valley, commuting to Boise twice a month, and then commuting to Salt Lake twice a month to preach, After that 3-month initial period, we sat down and I said, let's create a plan. Let's take this next year. Here's a strategy. Here's the things we need to address. Here's what we've got to work on, which included a pledge program, by the way, because it's hard to manage an organization if you don't know what your income is. So I said, let's create a plan. Let's get to a place of strength. And then at the end of that year, we will candidate for your new minister. And I will reserve the option to be one of those candidates. And I may not be. Let's just see how it goes. So at the end of that year, we all sat down and they went through a co-creation process. And crazy, but the community decided they wanted me to be the minister. And crazy me, I said, sure, why wouldn't I? I only live 4.5 hours away. Why wouldn't I? Right? Oh, what, you can't pay me? Great, perfect. It's just the perfect package in every possible way. But you were sneaky, because you were like, we don't have any money, but we will love you. I'm a sucker. I'm like a puppy. Okay, So it's been great. So 6.5 years later, here we are. 31 years later, here I am, still talking. And so we've gone through some amazing experiences. Some of them just incredible. Watching this community come together to design and implement this plan and build this building out. And some of you were here to rip out the old carpet and scrape up tile and clean bathrooms. I'll never forget Golda with her little, she reminded me of remember Carol Burnett, her little maid outfit. This was Golda coming out of the bathroom with her little scrub brush, because this place was filthy when we moved in. Some of you remember. But look at it, it's beautiful. We created this. We came together in vision, we came together in consciousness, we put our resources, and now we have this beautiful place. So I have liked to work from having a plan. Every year I sit down with the Leadership Council and say, here's what needs to happen next. So I want you to understand the plan as we go through this. I will be here for the next 5 months. I will be conscious. I will be committed. I will be here, right? And I will begin guiding the process as we look for that right, perfect interim minister to have in place so that it'll be seamless. The interim person will help facilitate a community figuring out who it is now, right? Because that's what happens when our lives change. You go, well, who am I now? If you've ever had a job and you identified with that job and then the job went away, you're like, well, who am I if I'm not an engineer, right? Same thing. And so that will happen. That'll take a number of months. It could be 6 months. I don't know exactly. And when we're ready, then we'll go through, I shouldn't say we, you'll go through a co-creation process to vision around who's your next perfect thing, who are we as a community, what's our next step. Then you'll begin a candidating process where you'll go kind of screen applicants, and then you'll go through and you pick your 2 or 3 most likely people. You'll invite them, and you'll choose one who will be fabulous and magnificent and will be ready to take you to the next level of who this community is yet to be. In that time, I'm going to practice sleeping in on Sundays. Every once in a while. And so I've been developing a health and wellness business. I've been talking more than writing a book, talking about writing a book more than writing the book. So I will be finishing my book. I'll be doing spiritual coaching here. I'll be doing a lot of guest speaking, public speaking, that sort of thing. I won't be doing a lot of church stuff because I don't want to do anything that is in any way in conflict with what's going on here. I want to totally support that. So, like I said, I'm not dying, but life is changing, and so we all get to breathe. Let's all breathe. It's just life, and it's changing. And change is good. You see, what I know is in this philosophy, we even advertise ourselves by saying you can change your life by changing your thinking. And we all love that. That's catchy and it sounds good. And then we realize, in order for my life to change, I'm going to have to change. Oh, this isn't comfortable. So that's why we don't just change like that. So I have no illusion that this won't have some uncomfortable moments with it. Of course it will. But we have enough time to do that consciously and lovingly. I could not, as I've said many times, I could not be more in love with this community. And that's a good thing. There was points when I wasn't so madly in love. What did you say, Christopher, about it's a love-hate relationship sometimes, But there's been some really challenging things, going through, finding out that we were being embezzled was a horribly painful, gut-wrenching experience, not just for me, but for the community as a whole. It was less about the money and more about the betrayal of somebody that you loved and trusted sitting in your office and then realizing they'd had an error of thinking. But we made it through that. And I think we handled it as best we could. We stayed conscious. We stayed transparent. We talked about the process as we were able. We got through it. So we've had these real highs of creating a building because that's exciting. Oh, we did the building. And lows of going through that experience and all points in between. But you see, this is the beauty of being in spiritual community. See, I don't see a lot of places in the world where you get to practice being a highly conscious person. I know it doesn't happen a lot in corporate America. Your boss says, I want you to do this, I want it in 5 minutes, and and you don't get to say, boss, when you speak to me in that tone of voice, I'm feeling diminished. Can we renegotiate, right? Well, I never had that job. We don't, there's not a lot of that. So in our particular philosophy, where we say you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to believe what we believe to be here. Cool. You don't have to subscribe to a set of beliefs. We don't have a doctrine that you're going to sign up for and say, yes, we are the one true. We just look for truth. But we do and have made a commitment that we would practice open, honest, loving communication. that we would understand that the community is created by what each one of us brings to the community. I know it's easy to think that I bring it. I don't. I just do my part in the whole, as each one of us does. Mine just happens to be much more visible, right? So we get to move into a next level of being together. We get to go through this consciously. And I will tell you, I was speaking with our regional rep recently, who you'll meet, Reverend Kathleen, and I was saying, in our overall denomination, this is not an experience that people get to have very often. There are plenty of experiences of the community overthrowing the ruler, pitchforks and all kinds of stuff showing up at the gate. There's certainly those examples. There's the example of, I took over a ministry many years ago where they told me that one of the ministers had called and said, oh, by the way, last Sunday was my last Sunday. So we're not doing that. Sometimes you get 30 days notice. We've got a nice period of time, hopefully not too long, hopefully not too short, to kind of work through this. And we get to realize he's just a minister, It's just our center. It's just change. It's just life. And we can love each other and support each other through the process. So I'm grateful, and I'm inviting you into being conscious as we go through this. Now, what we know that being conscious is not always comfortable. So I'm not inviting us into comfort. I'm inviting us into conscious. Okay, just want to be clear. I want to get the ground rules straight here, right? Because what I know and what I believe is that spirit is always seeking its highest self-expression. You think about this. I've talked about this so many times. There is a wisdom and an intelligence inherent in every seed. There's a wisdom and intelligence inherent in every cell. There is a wisdom and intelligence inherent in every living thing that is seeking to express itself more fully. So there is a wisdom and intelligence that is at work in this community. And it would be a disservice for me to stay longer than the point when I couldn't give my complete heart and soul to it, as I have for these last 6.5 years. It would be a disservice for us to go crazy because the best work is yet to be. Some of the folks, who's been here more than 6 years? You see, there's a lot of folks that know change happens. Our goal, just like has been in the various other things, is to have a plan, implement the plan, lovingly support each other as we go through it, and be in deeper, richer spiritual community to see what we can co-create next. And what I know is 3 years from now, we're going to be going, oh my God, I'm going to show up here some Sunday in a big hat and sunglasses, but somebody will recognize me. And you're going to, oh my God, I can't tell you how much we love our new minister, and he or she's just rocking it, and blah, 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 blah. Yes, that's what I intended. That has always been my intention. So let us grieve well together. It's part of our life. We say every Sunday we celebrate and support each other in all of the seasons of our lives. But let us not lose sight of why we're here. We're here to touch and to heal and transform lives. What Spirit is calling me to do is also to continue to touch and heal and transform lives. And I'm given the glimpse of the larger platform of what that looks like. And so I must say yes. I don't see how I can write a book that says, live boldly, follow your dream, your vision, and your passion, unless it creates some inconvenience for other people, right? So this annoying thing that tends to happen in my life is that I get to keep practicing what I preach. So frustrating. When I come back, my next lifetime, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to just preach. But this lifetime, I committed to actually practicing. So I want to say this again. I could not be more in love with you. And that's a beautiful thing, that I'm making a choice for me and for you out of love and for no other reason. And I had to get to that place. I had to work through the unresolved. I had to work through the stuff to get to that place to know that what I'm doing is serving not only my highest good, but in truth serves the highest good for all of us. So I'm grateful for your love. I'm grateful for your support. Grateful for your prayers. And we'll get through it together, and we will become more than what we can imagine today. So, I'd like to invite our practitioners forward. These individuals will be available after the service. If you feel like you need to be in prayer, they're standing by and welcoming such a thing. So, let's just take a moment to breathe. Allow ourselves to be present. Allow ourselves to be available. To feel whatever it is we're feeling, to know that that's an activity of the divine. And as we move into that awareness, into the conscious realization of the one life, the one presence, the one infinite being, expressing in and through and as all of creation, we're simply opening ourselves and becoming available to that higher wisdom, to that witness self that observes life happening. And we know that as we join together in the awareness and consciousness of the one life expressing through us individually and collectively, that God is and all is well. So we open our hearts in this moment to experience absolute unconditional love. We open our minds to experience infinite wisdom. We simply are allowing ourselves to be present with this presence. And I know that by its very nature, it is one of wholeness and harmony, love, joy, and beauty. And I know that by our divine inheritance, these qualities of spirit are ours right now. So we simply open and welcome and embrace truth. We know that wholeness is the order of the day. We allow that wholeness to reveal itself as health, as well-being, as vitality. We know that love is our divine birthright. Indeed, it is the self-givingness of spirit pouring itself into existence. That is love's very nature. So we open our hearts. We fully and freely forgive. We joyously release anything that no longer serves us. And we bear witness to the truth, making itself known. We recognize and know that we are indeed abundant beings, for we are one with the source and the substance of all that is. We are allowing ourselves to joyously give and graciously receive of the entire divine bounty. We know that we live in a state of grace and flow, and that it is good. So I invite you in this moment that whatever is going on, whatever burden of the heart there may be, we simply be willing to set that free, to embrace a greater possibility, a greater wisdom, a greater something coming forth. As I speak this word of truth, I'm truly moved by grace. I'm grateful for all of the blessings of our lives. I'm grateful for the blessing of this spiritual community. So I bless this community. I know that we grow and expand and continue to be a loving presence in the world, leading people to greater understanding, to spiritual insight and wisdom. We extend that blessing to our brothers and sisters across the planet. We know that there is a presence and an evolution taking place. Even as its shadow appears, there is light coming forth that is creating a new consciousness, a new understanding of the brotherhood and sisterhood of all humanity, that there is peace on earth, that there is goodwill for all. We're sensing, feeling, and envisioning a world that works for all. We bless the planet herself with all of her inhabitants, seeing a world in harmony with itself. For all of these blessings and so many more, I'm simply giving thanks. We take a moment to bless all priests, all rabbis, all ministers, teachers of all faiths, for we know that there are many pathways to the divine. And therefore we honor and celebrate them all, naming them good and very good. So with profound joy and deep gratitude, I simply give thanks for this spiritual truth. As I speak this word, I release it into the law of mind that knows what to do and how to do it for the highest and best good of all concerned. In joy and gratitude, then, I simply allow it to be so, as together we say, and so it is.